Okay, so this is the last chapter in the first Pure 1 textbook. So well done for getting this far, and hopefully you guys have been following along nicely and it's been relatively easy for you. As I said in the beginning, this first book is really just learning the basics so that we can build upon this to look at more difficult concepts which come up in the second year book. Okay, so this chapter is all about exponentials. Like the circles chapter, this is a very important chapter because they would 100% give you a question regarding exponentials. Right, first things first, what is an exponential? It's just a fancy name given to an equation which in the form of y is equal to a to the x, where a is just any number. So for example, y is equal to 2 to the x, or like 4 to the x, or like 100 to the x. These are all exponential functions. The important thing I want you guys to take away from this video is just the general shape of this graph. So if I was to sketch an exponential function, it will look something like this, where it's going to be increasing. This is going to be the general shape. Important points to note are the fact that it crosses the y-axis at 1. So all exponentials will cross the y-axis at 1, be it like y is 2 to the x, y is 100 to the x. They'll all cross the axis at 1. And they all have a horizontal asymptote at y is 0. So those are the two key points that you guys should be aware of. So if I was to sketch y is 2 to the x, it will look something like this. If I was to sketch y is 4 to the x, you can imagine that 4 as being bigger than 2, so it's just more steep, right? So it looks something like this, still passing y is 1, and still having a horizontal asymptote at y is 0. If I was to now sketch y is half to the x, well, you could imagine to yourself, well, half is smaller than 2, so it's going to be half as steep. But in fact, this is just like a trick question because I can rewrite half as 2 to the power of minus 1, right? And so therefore, y is half to the x, I can rewrite as y is equal to 2 to the minus x. And this means it's just being transformed or reflected in the y-axis. So if this was y is 2 to the x, y is half to the x will have the same steepness but just being transformed or reflected in the y-axis and will look something like this. So for any a value between 0 and 1, just remember to yourself that it's just a reflection in the y-axis.